Hi, world. So I come to you today basically to talk to you briefly about my most or my biggest developmental milestone in my life. Um, as you guys may know, I am writing a book, or I wrote a book called American Dreamer that I have not published yet. And in the book, I talk about my experience coming up, growing up in Jacksonville, how rough it was, my childhood, just everything from when I was born up until today. And I find it interesting that for this assignment, I'm being asked to talk about the most developmental moment in my life, which just so happened to be um, when I was 12 years old. And that experience that I'm going to get to in a minute, even though I only have 5 minutes to discuss this topic, basically had a drastic change in my life. It basically impacted my life in a very drastic way. And I do go into more detail about that in my book, American Dreamer. But for the sake of this 5 minute video, I'm going to try to keep it short. So when I was 12 years old, my mom and my dad were still together. They were 12 years basically married. And in my eyes, we were one happy family. Um, I just didn't see that there were any problems in my mom and my dad's relationship. And so I was playing outside. Me and my sister were playing outside in the neighborhood with some other kids. And one of the kids actually came and told us that our mom wanted us to come home. So I'm looking around, looking outside, like, okay, it's not time for us to come home yet. Normally, we don't have to come home until the street lights come on. So I knew something wasn't right. And then we rushed home. And when I got home, my mom was arguing with my dad. And she told us to just pack your things. Um, we got to go. We're leaving. And at the time when I was 12 years old, I really didn't get a chance to process everything and what happened on that day. I just basically went with the flow of things. I didn't question my mom. My mom never was the type of person that you would want to question or ask questions to. You just basically want to say yes, ma'am, and go with the flow, because my mom was very strict. She was a very strict disciplinarian. She didn't take any slack. She didn't give us any slack. And so on that day, when I was 12 years old, this was the summer of 1996, my life changed forever. My mom left my dad for good. It wasn't the first time that she had packed us up and left, but this was the final time that she did it. And from that point on, my life wasn't the same. As a result of my mom leaving my dad, my mom and my dad had been married for 12 years. They were separated. Even though they were legally married, they were still separated. Might as well say they were divorced. And so when I look at the research on parental divorce and the impact that it has on youth, I realize that much of what has been found in the research, I've actually experienced as a result of my mom and my dad separating. And there are three things that I found in the research that most youth who experience parental divorce go through. The first, for me, being low self-esteem. Like, I had some issues as a teenager. Like, when I was growing up as a child through elementary school, I never felt that I was inferior to anyone. I always felt very confident in myself. Um, I always kept a positive self image of myself growing up, and I just noticed, like, from the time after my mom left my dad, like, everything in my life just began to change. I began to feel less motivated. Even though I was able to still maintain a good GPA in school, everything changed in my life, and I just was a very different child. I was a very different teenager. I was a teenager who needed more attention that I didn't feel like I got. Um, I felt very lonely at times, and just things didn't feel right in my space. And so one of the things that I found in the research where children who experience parental divorce, that's my laptop battery is going dead. Hopefully I can get this done in a few more seconds. With that, in the research I found Amato and Shido, I guess that's how you pronounce it. They found basically that children of parents who have been divorced experience depression. They experience low self-esteem. Um, they have basically a weak connection with their parents, and that's what I experienced directly with my mom. When my mom left my dad, I noticed that our connection between each other wasn't as strong as it was when I was growing up in the household when I had both the parent and the father, where we lived together like that for 12 years. It wasn't until after my mom left my dad when I was 12 years old that things just basically began to change. My attachment to my mother, it dwindled, and even to this day, I'm 30 years old, and I noticed that me and my mom, we really aren't that connected like we should be. And I believe it has a lot to do with her leaving my dad and their separation and things not working out between them two. Interesting enough, I also found the research that children of divorced parents, they tend to struggle economically, and they have trouble finding work, and they typically do not go to college. But I found, like, with my own personal experience, the opposite has been true. It's part true, part not true, because I did graduate, luckily, and I guess thanks to God, it's just something that happened. I think that was destined to happen. That I went off to school when I was 18 years old. I went right into college, and I did graduate at the age of 22 years old from Florida State University, which with a bachelor's degree in psychology. And after that, I actually went into a master's program. So it was very interesting to see the contrast in between what happened in my life, and what the research found with children who have parents who have, separated and are divorced. So that's one difference I noticed that I noted between my personal experience and what I found to be true for most children who experienced divorce, that I was actually able to go to school, and I was able to, still maintain a life for myself, but that didn't take away from the impact that it actually had on my emotional, my mental well-being. And so that's just something that I wanted to talk about in this video. I know I went over 5 minutes, but I did get the point across, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. And if you would like, you can feel free to leave your comments and feedback. This is a topic that it's hard to address in 5 minutes. Even though I was only given 5 minutes, it's very hard to address in 5 minutes. So that's why I do talk about it more in depth in my book, American Dreamer. So if you would like to follow up with my story and just kind of stay in contact with me, you can visit me on my website at danielleleach.com. That's spelled DANIELLELEACH.com. And until then, be easy.